to Out of Touch with John and Dustin, here to get things rolling here. Episode number 49. Mitchell will be joining us shortly. And we got a special guest joining us this week, Mr. Kyler Staley. Some of you may be familiar with him. Some of you may not. That's all I'll say about him. We'll let it be kind of a surprise. He'll be joining us about 30 minutes into the show. And we'll talk about some good things coming around the corner. Some of it involves this podcast. Other things do not. Some of it involves me. I don't want to make it about me, but we'll share with that. Honestly, many of you who listen to this probably know what I'm referring to, and that's kind of my job situation changing, in my opinion, for the better. So we'll dig a little more into that and specifics and how Kyler's involved here in a little bit. But welcome into another episode, Mr. Shooty.
People are probably wondering, if they're watching this on YouTube, what the hell I'm doing. And anytime we start this podcast, Biscuit goes nuts. And he's playing, I got him this new puzzle toy because he's a very intelligent dog and he can figure out these puzzles without much problem. So I try to get him a new one to see if maybe it would, if it would take him a little longer to figure out. And he is just, because he's like, doesn't know what's happening and wants to be playful and wants all of my attention, he will not stop scratching at this puzzle. And it's driving me nuts. So I've had to maneuver some things around. I might shift throughout the show, but he's driving me insane. It was fine.
What do you think it is about starting the show that bothers him? Does he hear the music and then maybe it's just something like it's kind of like the, I don't know what that psychological term is. Kind of like when you ring the bell and you respond. I know there's a term for that.
It is. Like Abby will know it. Abby will know it when she hears this.
Okay.
On Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it drops, and she'll.
Is it classical conditioning? I feel like that's what it is. Maybe
I don't know. She's probably mentioned it 900 times since I've moved here, and I don't remember what it's called. But I don't know. He's just like this when I don't pay attention to him and I'm in the same room. Like if my attention is on this podcast, or if it's on the phone, or if I'm watching something on TV, he just wants my attention at all times. He's very needy.
My dog, Lily, whenever I'm sitting on the couch and she wants my attention and I'm not giving it to her, her maneuver is to force herself underneath of my, I guess it's just my arm, and just kind of plop next to me and just do that little maneuver.
He will at some point in this show probably get up in my face again.
Biscuit's the best, though. How old's Biscuit now?
He is 8. I've had him for 7 years, and he was a year old approximately when I got him.
Okay. Yeah, Lily's 3, and so I guess her birthday was back in May, but her quote unquote gotcha day, as is the popular term used now, was a little past 10 days by the time this podcast gets released. So, or 10 days ago, 3, I don't even know what I'm saying. My mind's all over the place. We've had her for 3 years. It's one of those.
You were trying to do calendar math from the release date and not the record date, and I can't even get to what the date will be when this record or when this drops. So,
and speaking of which, I'll go ahead and mention that. And I know I kind of teased it last week. Every episode from here on out is going to be released on Thursdays, and again, I'll give the specifics on why that's the case here when Kyler moves or comes on here with us. But that's good. It'll give us more days to record and that kind of a thing. I feel like if you're watching on the YouTubes right now, I feel like my face looks fairly red. Like it doesn't look like beet red, but it kind of looks like I'm very flush. And I don't know if it's because I just got out of the shower and I'm, kind of leftover steam is still spewing off of me, that kind of thing. But I'm feeling pretty red, I guess.
I was going to ask if you got sunburnt, because it has been, I don't know what it is in Louisville, Kentucky, but it is hot as hell in St. Louis.
It is. I think today was, the day we were recording this, which is a Monday. I think it's the hottest day we've had so far this year. I think the high was 97. Heat index was close to 110, something along those lines. And I've probably said this on here before. I highly despise the heat. Anything over 90 degrees, I could leave that forever and be happy if I never had to experience it ever again. I would take days below 30 degrees practically any time versus days over 90 degrees. Dustin, I feel like we've talked maybe casually about this. I'm pretty sure you disagree with what I just said.
I think I do disagree. And I don't know. I might change I don't know. I've lived in Florida and I've lived in Atlanta, and I've kind of gotten used to the heat, so it doesn't bother me as much. And here's the problem. It's not I feel like I have memory loss when it comes to temperature because right now I would agree with you, but I know when it gets to be like 25 degrees in December and January, I'm going to be complaining nonstop about the temperature because
Yeah,
I
if you
hate
remember, I
cold.
mean, almost maybe 6 months ago, exactly around this week in January, we probably had the coldest spell of the year where it got below, I think, probably single
Yeah,
digits. So, I mean,
it
this
was
is
it was
the middle
negative.
of July, middle of January. That's kind of prime time for the two different extremes, depending on where you live,
Well, they are
obviously.
6 months
But
apart, so
I mean, makes sense. So yeah, it's extreme heat time, whether you like it or not. I find myself more so not liking it. And I've got to suck it up, move on, quit your bitching, as I said before we started the show. Is that a bit from a comedian? I know I didn't. I know I stole that from somebody. Is it a TV show? Are you familiar with that phrase?
I mean, my parents said it to me all the time
Maybe
growing
it's
up.
just a
So
Midwestern Southern phrase,
it might
something
be.
like
I
that.
mean, maybe it stemmed from somewhere. I don't know, but I just know I heard it an awful lot growing up because I was apparently a very whiny kid. So
Yeah, kids whine. I was told I was a good child, but I'm sure I had my fair share
are,
of whiny moments. I'm sure every kid does.
are there
What were you gonna
any
say, Dustin?
are there any catchphrase? I don't know if catchphrase is the right word, but any phrases or sayings that your parents or grandparents said that you had no idea what it meant, whether it was for trouble purposes or not?
So I don't know if there's phrases that I didn't understand, but they definitely said things that I would have never said, and not because they're bad, but like one of them was there's a couple of them that come to mind. One of them is if they were talking about something and they didn't know what the object they were referring to was, they called it a whatcha name. So they
A
might
what your name?
using it in a sentence might be like, well, I don't even know how the hell they used it in a sentence. Now that I think about it, how the hell would you? So if I'm just saying,
So,
if I'm looking at this coffee cup and I don't know what it is, and they want me to grab it, they might be like, "Go pick up that whatcha name for me." It
oh,
sounds
so
completely ridiculous, but
well, we
that's
did a
something they would say.
whatchamacallit.
And isn't that the name of a candy bar? I think
Well, it
too.
is now, yeah.
It is now.
I mean, maybe that's what started it. I don't know what came first, the saying or the candy bar.
And then
But
there's
I
one other thing, and this is probably more common, but they would, if I was in trouble with them, they would threaten to hit me with a yardstick.
oh yeah, pick your switch. Yeah.
Did you pick your switch? Did you ever get hit with a switch when you were a kid?
No, not that I remember. I don't think I don't remember ever getting paddled.
I
I
was
don't
never
remember.
paddled or hit with a switch. But I was threatened, like I mentioned.
Yeah,
My
there were plenty of threats, let me tell you. There were
my grandmother would
ample threats.
go into she'd go into her laundry room and she'd just pull out her yardstick and just go.
Yep.
I mean, and she wasn't evil about it, obviously, but she
Right.
was trying to scare me a little bit, scare the child in me.
Yep. There was uh there was plenty of threats, and sometimes that's all it takes is just a little intimidation factor and you straighten right up.
I hate getting text messages. I don't know if you see me looking down every so often. I hate getting text messages when I'm recording anything because it throws off my train of thought. But at the same time, we're sitting here waiting for Mitchell. So Mitchell, I'll go ahead and explain why he's not on while we're getting recording. He's putting the baby to sleep. And brand new parent, Papa Mitch, we gotta, wait for him to get baby Margaret to sleep. So I was thinking the text messages were him telling us he's about to hop on or whatever. But no, it's my lovely mother in a group chat. And I don't know. I have no clue what she's sending, but she's sending something. So shout
I
out to my
can't
mom.
keep I cannot keep track of group chats. Like I know there's people out there who are like 8 to 10 people in a group chat and it's just constant. I man, it
No, I hate
drives
group
me
chats.
insane. I
And
don't like it either. The most I
it's
can do
funny,
is like 3 people in a chat.
people will complain about. So I'm an Android user.
Oh
I don't know
god,
if
yeah.
you see, and that's the thing. Everybody who has an Apple phone that's in a group chat with an Android user hates the Android user. Well, you know what? I don't want to be in your stupid group chat anyway.
Take
So
me
remove
off the
me.
list. Yes.
And so in some of my family chats, so actually a little fun fact about my family and like the phones we've had. There was a point between me, my siblings, my mother, and my stepfather. There was 3 of us who used to have Android and 3 of us who had Apple. Well, now I'm the only person left in the family who has an Android. My mom and my stepdad were the previous Android users along with me. And for whatever reason, one reason or another, they jumped ship to Apple. And I feel like more people, more often than not, if they're going to jump ship, they jump from Android to Apple, I guess just because that is the more dominant phone in the market.
Yeah.
But I would never do that. I'm so used to the way my Samsung Galaxies have always worked that I would never want to give up that. I guess it feels like it's a part of me, and that might sound weird, but I don't care if I'm the green bubble in a group chat. I'll wear that with the badge of honor and ruin your group chats, or else and if you really don't want me in there that bad, just remove me. That's the way it goes.
I understand. I am on your side to an extent. The fact that the phone is a part of you is a little weird, but I would say, like, for me, I don't think I would never say never, but I don't want to switch because I don't want to have to learn a whole new system because I have
Yeah.
no idea how that, like, I am dumb and it would take me forever to figure that out.
And I think that's what I mean by the phone being a part of me. I don't mean like a part of my personality, which I feel like most people, when they use that phrasing, that's what they're referring to. But yeah, it feels like the way that the Android operating system is a part of my DNA. Like it would be difficult to learn the other way around is probably what I meant to explain.
You are actually AI.
I am AI. And I know we talked a little briefly at the end of last show about AI Al Michaels doing the recaps for the Olympics in Paris, which to me is one of the more bizarre things that I don't want to say has ever happened in existence, but in terms of sports, one of the more bizarre things that NBC or any other broadcasting network has decided to do. Because a couple of things. One, Al Michaels is still alive. It's not like he's deceased and physically cannot do these. He may not want to, and maybe that's what ended up happening to keep them from getting the real Al Michaels. But for your alternative to be, let's just use an AI version of Al Michaels, that to me just doesn't make any sense when you could give that opportunity to somebody else. It doesn't even have to be somebody brand new. It can be somebody who, is also well known that, maybe isn't known the same way that Al Michaels is. But I don't know. Is Al Michaels known for doing the Olympics? Is it like something that people are going to be distraught if he's not a part of it in some way, shape, or form?
Well, he had that iconic Miracle on Ice call. That was
Okay.
kind of his defining moment. And a story about that was, I think, if I remember correctly, he like went over there as a volunteer. Like nobody else wanted to call hockey. He had some experience like calling minor league hockey, and he just got his big break because the United States had this epic moment and he had such a great call. I think it would be weirder if AI did it if he was dead. And it's just like the voice of Al Michaels from Beyond the Grave. But here's what's really weird to me, because I'm sure that they're still paying him some sort of royalty for using his voice. But with today's technology, he could probably like read these, whatever it's supposed to be, the recaps from his basement in a recording studio, and it'd probably take him like 30 minutes, and he could make a ton of money. I'm not saying Al Michaels is hurting for cash, but it is a very weird and unique thing that they're doing.
So here's the thing. Apparently, Al Michaels did comment on this, and he says this is what he said. He said, "When I was approached about this, I was skeptical, but obviously curious. Then I saw a demonstration detailing what they had in mind, and I said, I'm in." So I will say this. If he's okay with it, that does make it a little bit better, but I do still find it weird that NBC still prefers to do it that way, whereas they, instead of using a real human being.
I don't know if I do like that, even if he gets his approval. Because what that would do is, if you have, you don't have to have then talent. If you've got a good voice, somebody could just pay to have quote unquote your voice and do these recaps for other news networks. So it's probably gonna, I would assume that's gonna take away some jobs at some point down the road.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but this was either last year, a couple of years ago. I don't remember the exact date or time when this happened, but there was a radio station group or cluster somewhere out in the northwest part of the United States, I believe. And as part of like a joke or like a marketing ploy, they were going to do one day where all of the radio personalities were going to be AI generated. They weren't going to use the real radio personalities for whatever station they were on. And they just had everybody take the day off, I guess, or something like that, where it went, I guess, so well to where people didn't notice that this company ended up just letting go of all of the real human beings who were doing the radio for these stations.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That will happen because you're not going to need talent. You just need the voice. So if you have somebody who's got a really good voice for TV, radio, they don't need you to have a personality. They just need your voice. So that would be that's what they're experimenting with, because to some extent, I don't know how it would work, but I'm sure it's on some level. You think they're going to send an actual commentator to like a Ball State Toledo football game when they can do it for AI?
That's a good point. I guarantee you down the road, and maybe not far down the road at all. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this is already being implemented, but when you see all these cuts from ESPN, literally every single year, it feels like they're cutting off hundreds of people, if not more. It wouldn't surprise me if in the very near future that all these games on like ESPN Plus or, whatever network it is, Extra, that kind of stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if you start seeing most, if not all of those games commentated by people who aren't real human beings. Because honestly, when you look at a lot of the regional networks, unless you're just a super fan and you know everybody's name and you have a favorite commentator and it's somebody who's way out of left field, I mean, most of the people who are commentating the games that you're watching on one of those off-brand networks, if you will, you're not familiar with who they are. And so the easy solution for these companies is to be like, well, it doesn't matter to the listener or the viewer who's doing these games. They just want to watch the product on the floor or on the field. And so they'll just put a fake AI person on there.
And I think that's what's going to happen.
And if it's one of those things, I'm sure it'll be highly advanced and believable to an extent. But when it becomes commonplace,
I think
it'll be one of those. Go ahead if you have some thoughts. I don't want to keep stealing.
No, I was going to say, I think for like big games. So if like there's an Indiana Purdue basketball game, or if there's a Michigan Ohio State football game, I think you're still going to get like live broadcasts for that because they can add an element. But why? But they're not going to, like I said, they're not going to send a crew and pay them whatever the going rate is. I have no idea for Kennesaw State, Georgia Southern. That's just not going to happen. People are probably just going to tune in on the ESPN Plus app. If they don't like the AI commentary, they'll just watch the game on mute.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
And that
now,
would be
anyway.
uncomfortable to do. That's true, because you're almost always going to have I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but the guys affiliated with the university who do the radio, obviously Don Fisher with Indiana's comes to mind for me. And whoever else, I know Purdue has a pretty good guy. I couldn't tell you his name because I don't listen to him, but I know he's well renowned as well. We got Paul Rogers in Louisville. But whenever those guys step down, is it going to be somebody new, or is it? I mean, I feel like radio is just a little bit different when it comes to doing play-by-play. But
I agree with you. I think the radio people will still have a job. I don't know, but the TV people in the places where they're doing as much stuff as cheaply as they can already. And some of it's goodwill, like ESPN Plus, Big Ten Plus. The goal is it is cheap labor. Let's not cover any of that up. But it's also an opportunity for those students to get like hands-on experience in this kind of field. So that's good. But at the same time, if you've watched the quality of some of those Big Ten Plus, like baseball or softball broadcasts, it's not particularly good.
That's true.
So
And most of the ones, those are usually student run
that's what
broadcasts, right?
that's what I'm saying, which it's not
Okay.
necessarily their fault. It's just they kind of get the bare minimum in terms of the equipment and the production stuff to be able to, put on a good show.
And I
So
hate it
that's
too because I feel like if you're in school for something like this and you're you go through the training and you put in the hours to kind of hone your craft and get good at it, I mean, your opportunities in the next few years, I feel like are going to be, I don't want to say
limited.
impossible to find, but you're going to have to work even harder to find that role that you want than you had to previously. So it's definitely, I hate to say anything is scary because I mean, ultimately, no matter what happens in life, like we have no control over anything. We are just
Right. No, you're
mere
right.
human beings, and we have to go with the flow of everyday life, and whatever happens in that day, we have to react to it in whatever way hopefully is appropriate. Sometimes we overreact in ways, and that's unfortunate, but that's life.
I've never been happier than when like they did try to do AI. I think it was an Ohio newspaper tried to do AI for like their prep sports, and it was a catastrophic failure. I've never been more relieved and happier. It gives me like at least another couple years doing my job.
If and this may be something both of us could answer, but I was going to ask you if you found out tomorrow that your job was being outsourced to artificial intelligence and anything in that field was, I mean, maybe not anything because I feel like I'm kind of just creating boundaries that may not exist. If you had to go tomorrow and find something else because anything like that was gone, what do you think you would do?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have not thought about that.
Because while you're thinking about it, one
yeah,
like
you got an
with
idea?
yeah, with mine, especially when I'm focusing on like just the production aspect of what I do and not any of the hosting stuff. We have such high tech boards at our offices in iHeart that apparently they are already experimenting with ways for if there's no producer available to fill in on a certain show, that the show can be intelligent enough to essentially run itself, know when to take the breaks, and essentially again have no need for a producer. And so if that were to happen, and let's say iHeart down the road does another one of their big budget cuts, like I was talking about with ESPN, I mean, that'd be it for me and maybe everybody. I mean, it's all relatively, you have to take it for what it is, and you can only assume so much. But it is scary.
I think so. I have previous experience as an academic advisor to college, so I feel like I could potentially get back into that at some point if I had to. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I'd be able to go right into, but you know what I wanted to do coming out of high school was I wanted to go into forensic science.
Okay.
I am not good at chemistry, science, or math, so that dream was that bubble was burst pretty early on, pretty quick. But
See, and I don't know
always
what
thought
I
it
would
was
do. I
fun.
mean, I've always flirted around with the idea that if I absolutely had to do something else, I would go get my master's and teach broadcasting. But then two things. One, I don't want to go back to school for anything at this point.
Yep.
I'm so far removed from it that I have no desire to go back to it. And then two, if I go to school to like teach this and the jobs are gone, then I'm just wasting my time altogether because these people there wouldn't be the jobs that were once previously available. So, it's all just downhill from here, isn't it?
It really is. There's nowhere to go but down.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our special guest of the day, and I can already see him in the green room. He's grinning. He's excited. Dustin, he told me the other day before I officially bring him on here, he said he's been wanting to call in, and he loves listening to the show. He's been wanting to do it for so long. He just hasn't, though. And I say all the time that so many people say they want to call in, and they just don't do it. Everybody's a fraidy cat.
A fraidy cat?
Afraid. That's another phrase that
they said a fraidy cat,
used
not
to
a
say
scaredy
a fraidy cat, not a scaredy cat, fraidy cat. And that's,
Well,
it is
Kyler,
what it is.
our next guest, told me, I'm sorry if I ruined his intro. But
Oh,
he
no, okay.
told
You could
me
even introduce him if you want to.
in
Go ahead.
January, whenever the Purdue Indiana game was at Mackey Arena, told me he was going to call in, and he still hasn't. How's that for an introduction?
There it is.
The Frady Cat, Kyler Staley, is officially on Out of Touch, and I cannot be more excited.
I'm sorry Mitchell's not here. He's currently putting his newborn baby to bed, and we weren't sure when he was going to hop on. He may hop on in just a few moments, but he's doing Papa Mitch things right now.
Yeah, I want to say congratulations to Mitchell. I hope he's able to join. I was looking forward to seeing him, but yeah, congratulations. That's pretty big. He's moved into in Carmel, right? Is that where he's at now?
He's, I think, technically in Indianapolis, but he's out by like Broad Ripple. We're just giving his his address out on this show.
Yeah,
I think he's out near Broad Ripple. If anybody wants to go pester him.
Yeah, so I'm in Fisher, so yeah, so we're pretty close to together and stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing him at some football games and hopefully some basketball games as well this year.
So for those who don't know, Kyler Staley is a writer with a site called HoosierIllustrated.com, and we'll get into more of that towards the end of things when we wrap things up here. But I want to just make a couple of observations as I'm looking at Kyler's background right now. He's got a lot of cool little trinkets on his walls right there. I see the IU, the wooden IU. I see the Indiana State sycamore, which I know you went to ISU, right?
I did. I am a sycamore, graduated in 2019.
I want to ask you about Terre Haute real quick. And Dustin, I know you visited Terre Haute as well.
I did.
Went to a sycamore game back in the wintertime whenever Indiana State was doing really good. One thing that's always fascinated me, Kyler, about Terre Haute, and it's probably what fascinates a lot of people if they're aware of what's in that town, and that is the federal prison where they I hate to say kill people, but it's where they do death row. It's where they do the lethal injection, all that kind of stuff. Is that weird being in that town, going to school, knowing that in the United States that this is the one place that people go to if they're a part of that unlucky, I hate to call it unlucky, it's not really what it is, if they put themselves in a position to be on death row?
Terre Haute, it's got a lot of funny things around there when you really think about the town. It is not the best looking town in the world. It's pretty run down. They always talk about the smell with it, which I never really noticed when I was there. I don't know, maybe that says something about my my nostrils or whatever, but no, yeah, it always was weird because you got the prison there, and they're also known for Larry Bird and all that stuff.
That's true.
So there's just a lot going on. I believe, they had the worst of the worst. Prisoners there. What was it? The Boston Bombers were there. The guy, I always forget their name, but like I always think of the movie with Tom Hanks. I think it's Captain or whatever. The guy that took over the ship that Tom Hanks was running and stuff. They had him. The real live version of him, not the actor. That'd be kind of crazy, but yeah.
Raymond Reddington, if you're a Blacklist fan, I don't know if you've seen the show The Blacklist.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He nearly got murdered or executed in Terre Haute.
Yeah, that's right. So I never really went over there. I never really had kind of the want to drive over there and see what that's all about. But just knowing it was there was always the craziest thing, and it's just a fun fact of that very, very unique town. I
believe also that's where Mike Tyson served his prison sentence.
I think that's 90s. Right.
I'm almost positive that's true, because the thing with the Knicks and the Pacers back in the day was that Spike Lee and Reggie Miller had a bet that if, I don't remember which year it was, 94, 95, it was the year they lost. So I think 94. But if the Pacers won, then Spike had to put Reggie's then wife in his next movie. If the Knicks won, Reggie had to go to Terre Haute and visit Mike Tyson in prison.
Talk about a bet that just goes all over the place there.
Right? That's insane.
That might be one of the most famous bets in the world. I don't know. I can't name very many bets that really top that one.
No.
I can't remember why I did this recently, and I don't remember how. This is probably a couple of months ago. But I was looking on Google Maps, and I went over to where the federal prison is on there, and I went to Street View to see how far the Google car can travel on the road before they don't let them go any further. And they let you go all the way up to, I guess it's like the front gate. There's like it kind of looks like a state park little building where there's like a person sitting in there, but the the Google car evidently couldn't move any further than that. But it is freaky that in the little town of Terre Haute, that's where they decided to put the federal prison.
I mean, Terre Haute, man, it's just like I always joke around because I was there for 4 years. I met all my best friends there. You know, a lot of my best friends came from the basketball team during that time. So, but I always joke around and say I grew up there in a lot of ways. But Terre Haute's always going to hold a special place in my heart when it comes to, you know, all the friends I made, the relationships I built there. And it really got me, you know, my basketball juices flowing there, you know, for me to get into what I do and whatnot, just because of the friendships that I made, those guys being on the basketball team and understanding when it comes from, you know, it comes being a student athlete at that time. You know, there was no NIL or anything like that. I mean, that's just, you know, there was a lot of bit of a grind, and they were students at the same time. So really respected that. And that's what made me kind of get into like what I wanted to do with basketball and whatnot. But yeah, Terre Haute, you know, crazy town, a lot of drug antics there, a lot of homeless people there. Not gonna lie, gets a little scary when you got, you know, guys that are on whatever knocking on your doors at 3 a.m. Trying to figure out what's going on. But
so you had some randos when you were living there. You had just weirdos coming up to your door, knocking on and trying to get in, or, you know, get something from you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there was times I lived so. Our town was, our apartment was really unique. It looked like a pole barn on the outside, but it was 3 units, and me and my roommate lived in 1 unit downstairs. My best friend Matt and Jackson, they lived upstairs in like a 4-bedroom, and then there was another apartment complex that was kind of to the left of mine that was also downstairs. So we would have all the time. We were right next to these. I kid you not, we were right next to the train track that runs through there. We were off campus, but we were technically off campus, but we were still kind of on campus. So there's a lot of times where you're running late for class just because we call it railroaded, because you just get stuck by the train and you can't cross the thing. So, I mean, that's a legit excuse. And it was awesome about the professors. They were less like, where do you live? And I was like, I live across the train track or whatever. And I was stuck there for 10 minutes or whatever. And they would like be like, all right, that's a fair excuse or whatever. But back to your question. Oh yeah, it was very, I wouldn't say often, but I mean, there was probably at least once a month, once every other month, you would get some person that's on something, knocking on your door, asking for money. I remember one time I think it was like on a Friday, it was like chill. All my classes were done. And I had a lady knock on my door. I mean, she was in rough shape, missing teeth, whatever. And she's asking for money, and then she made up this story about how she had lost her kid and stuff like that, and you know, just those types of things where you kind of like, okay, I feel bad for this person, but at the same time it's like, well, get off of whatever you're on. So you know, you just try to give them as much cash as you got, and you just kind of let them go back and hope that they don't come back to you. But oh yeah, I mean, you would run into a lot of people. My friend Bronson still lives up in Terre Haute. Bronson Kessinger, for Southern Indiana fans, he was a basketball player, played at Corden, played at Indiana State, actually had an ESPN special about him as well. So, but he lives up in Terre Haute still. And he says every day, he's like, he's always seen some homeless people, you know, acting crazy and stuff. And we just love hearing his stories, you know, in our group text and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, Terre Haute, you're going to run into a cast of characters there.
And I tell you, I've talked plenty about Louisville as well on the show, and the weird run-ins I've had. It sounds like it's one of those towns where if you're like me and you like to go out and get lunch every once in a while, you just park your car, roll the windows down if it's a nice day. You can't do that because you're going to get approached by somebody who probably has no business coming near you. And I know you want to be nice. You mentioned, you know, giving the cash and all that kind of stuff. But to me, and I hate to assume, but, you know, this is just the way that it goes sometimes as Dustin goes to deal with Biscuit. Oh, no, it's just maybe it's just getting
light. It's a little too dark.
I saw his Purdue shirt just when he turned his light on.
Oh no. Man.
Turn
so
the light back
Hoosier
off.
Sycamores and the Boilermakers all in one room right now. We're missing the Cardinals. We're missing the Crusaders. We're missing the Bulldogs. We could get.
They're not the Crusaders anymore. They're
not.
Beacons? They're the Beacons or something weird.
I think that's right.
And the Fighting Irish, but we can say Indy Hater 1 is here in spirit.
That's true, in spirit. Yes.
Totally off my train of thought. I was talking about wanting to give cash, you know, help them out, but I have a hard time thinking that most people who just take the cash are not using it for something that it should or may not be worth their time. But oh well, we'll veer away from that. I've got one thing. I was hoping to save this next bit for when all of us were on here, but I'm starting to think Mitchell may or may not get to be a part of tonight's episode. But so normally we take phone calls if we have some on the show. I'm about to play a phone call. It's not from our hotline, and it's not from a hotline in general. This is a 911 call, and I believe this happened less than a week ago, maybe even just a couple of days ago. And I won't give much more context than that, but I heard this the other night, and I laughed so hard at this, and I don't want to oversell it, so I may just jump right into it here in just a moment. But I do want to throw the hotline number out real quick. If you are curious, if you want to leave us a message, that number is 502-830-9195. But without further ado, let's just let this thing play. Here we go. As soon as it.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, this is Jesus Christ, and I just broke into the Pizza Hut. I broke the window in. I'm here. Jesus is here now. He's back to earth.
All right. And so you don't work there?
No, I just broke in. Had a pizza. I'm Jesus.
And what was your name again?
My name is Jesus.
What's your last name, Jesus?
Christ.
Okay. And what do you look like?
I look like Jesus. What else do I supposed to look like?
Why'd you do that?
Because I'm Jesus. I can do whatever I want. We're tired of Judases on this earth. We're going to clean this earth up. So what are you up to?
Well, where do you live at?
I don't. I'm from heaven.
How'd you get over to the Pizza Hut?
I'm from heaven, sir.
Okay. And did you break a front window?
Yeah, I broke the door window, sir.
And did you eat a pizza?
Yeah. Had a Mountain Dew.
We'll leave it. I think that's the end of the message. There is some stuff that it tails off into, but it's not pertaining to. There's no more audio from that specifically. But one of my favorite parts about all of that. I mean, it's all pretty funny to me, and I've listened to it enough times to where I am more numb to it than I was last night. I could not stop laughing the first time I heard that without any context. But the thing that really gets me still, I love how you can hear the siren on in the background. It's like, it sounds like you could still hear where he had broken in and was still in there talking on the phone to whoever was answering the 911 call.
Well, my thing is like, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay, with that whole thing. Two things that immediately stick out to me is one where he emphasized, where they asked what his last name is, and he emphasized Christ. Like, you're the idiot. Duh. Yes. And then two, are you sure that that's not a call from Terre Haute? Because I feel like that would be somebody in Terre Haute breaking into the Little Caesars that we used to always go to.
I tell you what, I don't know. So if I can find the story, Dustin, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I'm gonna try to find where this took place at. Maybe
I like that
it'd be
offered up
hilarious
that
if it
he
was
drank a
Terre Haute.
Mountain Dew. Like, yeah, I had a pizza and I had a Mountain Dew, just so you can get my full order here of things I stole from this Pizza Hut.
And he's like, also like, he's just like, well, what do you think I look like? Basically, he's like, I'm Jesus. like made the cop sound like an idiot.
You can tell the person taking the call has like no idea how to handle this situation. Well, I shouldn't say doesn't know how to handle it, but is just so taken aback by everything that's unfolding. And he doesn't even know what question to ask next.
I mean,
so fun fact, I don't know where this took place. Apparently this happened back in, it looks like 2018. This isn't even something that just happened. I guess it just went.
I like that you
viral.
thought it happened a week ago, and it was actually
because ago. it was a new post on a TikTok that I saw, and so I thought that this was just something that was just now happening. But this dude's from Greensboro, North Carolina. His real name is Richard Lee Quintero, and he claimed he was Jesus. He must have been, really on something, as we were talking about earlier.
And he's flying high that night.
You're gonna have to find his mugshot because I really want to see if he actually looks like Jesus. Because he might have
the photo I'm looking at right now isn't his mugshot. This is him in what appears to be. I guess I'll go ahead and throw the photo up on the screen here in just a second. But he looks like he's just a cool dude. He's got a guitar strap. He's out in the woods. Honestly, Dustin, if you were a musician, this is kind of what I'd picture you look like maybe in 20 years. You're out on one of your hikes.
Thrown under the bus here.
Because you're the outdoorsman, and not that
true.
you're out there, like slaying animals or hunting or anything like that. But you like to go on hikes. You like to be out in nature, and not that I don't, but you're definitely more known for that than I am. And all you need is a guitar. Go find yourself a watering hole, and I guess eventually
break into a Pizza Hut. Yeah.
Hey, some people imagine Jesus Christ as different visuals. I always go back to Talladega Nights, where the scene where he's talked about is like, I like to picture my Jesus as in the front row of a rock concert or whatever. Right. That could be some people's Jesus.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know. So we can't judge the guy until we know the facts. That's all I'm going to say.
Mr. Dusty, you look like you had something. That's why I left the.
It was one of those things where I had a thought and then I lost my train of thought, and so now I've got nothing.
Man, what do y'all think it's like to be a dad? I know Mitchell. So here's one thing that, and I know we've talked about this a lot the past couple of weeks. I don't want to dwell on this topic a lot, but man, Mitchell's doing the damn thing, as they say. And plus, he I know he still owes us the hosting. He gets to host one of the shows, or at least begin one of the shows as part of his punishment from.
This is why he had the baby in the first place, to avoid this
Town Name Trivia. Yeah, he knew it was coming. He went over, he saw that it was happening, and he told his wife Laurie, he said, "This baby needs to come now because I don't want to do this. I know I acted like it for the show, for the sake of the show. I looked like I was super excited about it, and then I wanted it to happen." But no, he had, the baby had to happen instead. And so that's how Margaret came to be, right? We'll just say that's the story.
Way to go, John.
To answer your question, I don't know any idea of how it feels to be a dad because I'm not a dad. So I don't know what it would be like.
That's the thing. I'm not either. None of us are. That's the beautiful thing about life. You do it however you want at your own pace. Some people may never be a dad, and that's just the thing that they want to do. Maybe that's you, Kyler. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, or you, Dustin, but maybe some people don't want to be a dad.
Yeah, Kyler, maybe you don't want to.
You know what? I will say I do want to be a dad one day right now, but I mean, I've got a ton of friends and they all have kids. So I'm the fun uncle when it comes to that. So I'm perfectly fine with being that right now. Yes, I'm perfectly fine with being in that role right now. But down the road, yes, I would love to be a dad. So just not right now.
Before we get into, I guess, like the primary reason that we're doing this little crossover Without a Touch and Hoosier Illustrated, I got one more thing, and it's another observation from your background. And it's the beer stuff. I see Dale's Pale Ale, and I see you have cold beer. And I'm kind of known for being somebody that's not very savvy with alcohol, and that's actually something that if I eventually lose Town Name Trivia, I have to do a shot of something that is something that I probably won't enjoy. But yeah, you seem like you may be in more along the lines of a connoisseur of this type of stuff.
I would say that I am a connoisseur of beer. I am a big beer drinker. I do like alcohol. Not to sound like an alcoholic or anything, but I do like alcohol. A lot of times with my schedule and everything, it is just so nice on a Friday or whatever, just to go to a bar. There's a lot of awesome bars around where I live up in Fishers. Meeting up with a buddy or something like that. I just love that feeling, that vibe. And I love being together with friends and family. And just drinking cold ones. So my favorite beer, for those wondering, I am a big Corona Light guy. So I always, those types of beach beers, those Mexican beers, I always say they're cervezas. So big cerveza guy. Got to put a lime in it, obviously. But I love whiskey. I love a good Jack Daniels. Love some Tennessee Honey Jack Daniels. That's my go-to a lot. So, but no, I love the bar feel. So my apartment's kind of that kind of feel I try to go for. It's kind of a sports bar feel with it. A lot of cool sports memorabilia and everything up in my place. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm just a guy that likes to chill, have a cold one after work sometimes. And, nothing crazy. So that's just kind of how I roll.
Crazy's behind us most of the time.
I would say it's behind us. Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, there's still every once in a while. There's still every once in a while.
Have you ever been to Bardstown in Kentucky, Kyler?
I have not. That's the place I've always wanted to go. My friend Bronson, he's from Louisville, so he's always talked about that place. So I've always wanted to go over there.
Yeah, a lot of big bourbon distilleries, Jim Beam, Heaven Hill. I'm sure there's some that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but
Bardstown.
Yeah, Bardstown itself, obviously. And Dustin and I met there one time when he was passing through. I can't even remember what the occasion was, but that was the one and only time I met Dustin Schutte in person. So
that was
fun fact. Still never met Mitchell Page in person.
Dang. Have we met in person yet, John? I don't think we have.
There's this one thing that's been interesting about this whole streaming online and doing, shows and producing that kind of stuff is I've met so many people. And I mean, I could probably 30 to 40 different people, maybe even more than that I have either never seen in person, probably never will see in person, or maybe just, like Dustin just a couple of times. It's weird. It's like there's this online community of people that I know, and I know them well enough to kind of sort of know them as human beings, but it's, we live in a day and age where you don't have to meet people in person to do your job. And, that's just the way it is, I guess, sometimes.
No, you don't. I think I've met Dustin. I think I've seen you maybe 3 times in person.
I was going to say,
somewhere around there.
Media days last year.
Yep.
At least once in Bloomington, and then at Purdue. I know it's been at least 3.
Yeah, at Purdue, where I was forced to watch the first half of the game in the media room because there wasn't enough seats at Mackey Arena. So I was being a good guy, and I let my intern Drew, intern at the time, let him sit in the first half, and then he sat in the second half. So, but yeah, that was always an experience. But I love Mackey Arena. That was cool, and I got to see Dustin, like I said. So it was a fun time.
Well, that's just peachy and wonderful. All right, we'll go ahead and get into again what I've been teasing. It's not even really that much of a tease. I'm sitting here making it sound like I'm about ready to introduce Stevie Wonder or Chris Rock or something like that. But anyway, reason we're doing this crossover is because I'm about to become a part of Hoosier Illustrated. For those who may be unaware, beginning next week, as a matter of fact, I will be doing a sort of a bi-daily show, if you will. We still have to work out the exact schedule of how it's going to work, but I am joining Hoosier Illustrated to talk all things Indiana basketball and football, and all that comes with all that kind of stuff. And obviously I'll be working with Kyler, Staley, and Alec Lasley and their entire team of people, and I'm super excited to be doing that. And they're also going to bring the Out of Touch podcast on as something to kind of expose it to another audience. And one other thing too, I'm not going to reveal the name of the show. Actually, by the time this episode comes out, I do believe the name of the show that will be on Hoosier Illustrated will be public information. Still kind of workshopping it to make sure it just makes sense. And because once it's out there, it's out there. You can't change it. You got to go with it. So if you're curious what the name is, all you got to do is find my Facebook page or my Twitter page. I'm sure it's up there somewhere. But as of the time of this recording, we haven't finalized it. So anyway, I'm super excited. Kyler and Alec are giving me this opportunity to kind of expand my horizons a little bit. And we have a history of working together, and just super excited for all that is going to come with this. Yeah, no, I mean, just to echo off that, I mean, from Alec and I's point of view, perspective, we're super excited for this. This is something that we always wanted to do. Hoosier Illustrated's, only just a little bit over a year old, so still fresh and brand new. And that's been the fun part about what Alec and I have been doing. And I wish Alec was here too, that he can kind of chime in with it. But, for us, it's been a startup, and it's been fun trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, when it comes to writing about Indiana and the type of stories, and getting into a YouTube show, radio show, whatever, podcasting. We wanted to get into that. We just kind of needed the right person in right field to do that. And John was always somebody that was at the top of my list when we were talking about that I wanted to come over. And thankfully, all the signs have kind of, aligned and everything. All the plans have aligned, and it's happening now. And we can't be more excited, especially we get to bring, Out of Touch over as well, promote that and everything. I love the podcast. I'm a big fan. Obviously, I've been dying to be on here and everything, but I'm just glad that we get to promote that more. You guys are a great cast of characters, and I think you guys need to be, featured a lot more. So bring it on the HoosierIllustrated.com. I always say it's the hottest thing going today. I'm very, very confident in that. But I'm just excited. I think the show's going to be great. I'm excited to have guests on to see what we can all do. We're going to talk all things basketball, recruiting, football,
actual basketball, just all things going on, on that show. And, obviously there's a lot of other sports stuff that'll just come with it, like you said, John. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be about. I'm excited to do live shows. I'm just excited to see what we can do with this thing. And I think it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be great for the site. And I think it's going to be great for the Indiana fans out there.
Yeah, like we've said, we're both super excited. And the plan for now is for those shows to be released on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, obviously with the Wednesday release of that. And I don't want it to coincide with the podcast Without a Touch. And so that's primarily why I'm moving the regular releases for this podcast to Thursday, as I've kind of alluded to over the past couple of weeks. So again, it's not that the cat's out of the bag. This has been public information for a while. This is just kind of the next step of kind of promoting what's next forward and, moving forward. And I'm just excited. I'm nervous. I know I'm used to doing this type of thing, and I've gotten very comfortable behind a microphone, but anytime you do something brand new, I was talking to Dustin about change before we got the show rolling today. Change for a lot of people, including myself, can be, nerve-wracking, but you know what? It also usually comes along with a lot of good stuff as well. And, you got to embrace the change sometimes.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And I just to piggyback off of that, I mean, I get how you're feeling. I felt the same way last year when I took a bet on myself and I left the Hoosier.com with Rivals. Really good gig, really sweet gig. It was really comfortable. But, when Alec approached me about what he was doing, and I'm very loyal to Alec, very, very loyal to Alec. And just, I met him, I think it was in 2020. So COVID was still going on. I met him through a basketball event, the Top 100 Showcase. It was at Ben Davis. And at the time he was with Rivals, and they needed somebody to be in state because Alec wasn't in state. He was working out in New York. He just happened to be there, that weekend. Things kind of, I was just, yeah, that'd be really cool. I'm a big Indiana fan. I loved what Alec wrote and everything following him just for any Indiana updates and whatnot. But, Alec reached out to me at the middle of Mike Woodson's first year. So I think that's 2021, maybe somewhere around there. So, so he reached out to me. I joined. I get to live my dream. I love Indiana basketball. I get to cover it. I get to go to Assembly Hall for free, basically. And I get to cover these games, and I get to be there all the time. And the best part about it is my family's huge Indiana fans. So it's always, fun to reach out to them and just telling my papa, especially huge Indiana fan, to get to talk to him about games and, what I'm hearing and things like that. And he loves that stuff. But, back to Alec, I'm just extremely loyal to him because he allowed me with this dream. So when the opportunity came for, he was leaving, and I was kind of stuck in the lull of what I wanted to do. So, I mean, it was pretty much an easy decision once Alec had mentioned what this was, what Hoosier Illustrated was going to be about. And I was all on board. I took a big risk there, and probably still taking a little bit of risk now, with it today. It's still pretty new and whatnot. We're still trying to really crank this thing out and see what it's going to be about. But, bringing guys on like John is going to be huge for us. It's going to be huge for the Indiana fans. I think they're going to love it. And I think John has a really good following, with the stuff that he was doing with Indiana Sports Beat Radio and whatnot. And I think people are going to come over and they're going to want to listen, to us and, the guests that we're going to bring on. It's going to be really exciting. We've already got some ideas, in place and stuff to see what we're going to do. So I'm just excited to get this thing rolling in a few weeks, honestly.
Yeah, I am as well. And, it's my mind is, I may end up cutting this part out just because my mind is going in all sorts of different directions. Hopefully I can get myself back on track. But I guess just to sum everything up, it's just a super exciting time. It's going to be good. And I guess we'll just leave it at that. And Kyler, thanks for again, giving me the chance to do something like this. And I know Alec, he may or may not be listening. I'm thankful for him as well. And I'm looking forward to, just collaborating with you guys each and every day. And it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. And I'm hoping to bring kind of a more relaxed style to the I guess the airwaves. This isn't a radio show that's going to be, at least not at first. Maybe that's something that'll happen down the line, but I'm hoping to bring more of a relaxed personality to some people say it's oversaturated, and maybe in some cases it is, but to the market that is an Indiana sports podcast show, whatever you want it, whatever it might be. I feel like there's kind of a missing person to just kind of be that not just voice of reason, but somebody who doesn't take themselves too seriously. I feel like that's something that I bring in, and hopefully if you enjoy everything you hear on this show, go over and subscribe to Hoosier Illustrated on YouTube, because that's where that show's going to be. And that was the initial thing that I was trying to dance around to, by the way, Kyler. Whenever I was at a loss for words, I was thinking about that. I had to talk my way back to it, and that's what you have to do sometimes. But yeah, go subscribe to Hoosier Illustrated. That's where you're going to find all this stuff, and not just the shows, but any sort of content that you may be looking for. If you are an Indiana fan, be sure to check out the website as well, HoosierIllustrated.com. And that's where we will be beginning the week of July 22nd, coming up next week. So
yeah, Big Ten football media days, right? So
that's right. Big Ten football media days is next week, which is we'll save all of that talk for that show, because I do have some thoughts on media days in general, good and bad. So yeah, I guess a little teaser of what's to come if you're gonna follow along with all that. So
yeah, we'll have to we'll have to make it once we get the show rolling. We'll have to have a Boilermakers corner or whatever, and we'll bring on Dustin.
And Dustin, I feel bad. I know I hated that. I feel like for the last 10 minutes, you've just kind of been sitting.
That's all good. I'm just taking it all in. I'm learning about your next steps.
See, I'm looking out for you, Dustin. I want you on the show and everything. So we got to have a Boilermakers perspective on a lot of things. So we can't just be centric to Indiana. Even though Hoosier Nation might not like that, we got to spice it up just a little bit. But I like what you said, John. We got to have a guy that's cool, calm, and relaxed in this crazy fan base that one bad thing goes wrong, it's just a domino effect on a lot of things.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of that.
We need a voice of reason. I try to be the voice of reason when it comes to the stuff I write, stuff I talk about, but I don't know if I'm the best when it comes to that. We need you desperately. Hoosier Nation needs you in this certain time.
All right. I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Let's go ahead and pump that music up. But thank you, Kyler, once again for taking a few minutes, coming on and talking with us.
Yeah, it was a blast. I hope I can come back again, and hopefully, I've got my Talking About the Hoosiers podcast, so hopefully I'll get you guys on there soon as well, return the favor. So it was fun. I really appreciate it.
And stick around after the show. I want to talk about some things after this. But Dustin, thank you always as well for taking the time out of your evening to be on as well.
As always.
That's right. And until next week, and next week is officially a year of Out of Touch, by the way. So that's also another cool thing going on. So thanks as always. We will talk to you again next week.